we are constantly bombarded with this terrifying idea of the population bomb.
Right, yeah. You hear it everywhere.
You really do. I mean, it is this relentless narrative that a booming population is just the absolute single biggest threat to the developing world.
Oh, absolutely.
The whole story goes that, more people just automatically means drained resources.
Collapsing economies, yeah.
Exactly. Like, it's just a fast track to the brink of societal ruin. But what if that entire narrative is completely backwards?
Well, that's the big question.
Right. What if the one thing we've been told is destroying the developing world's economy is actually, well, its greatest asset?
I love this premise. It's a premise that forces you to entirely flip your perspective on how we measure the wealth and, the potential of a nation.
For sure.
Because we have been deeply conditioned to view human beings primarily as consumers. Just consumers of limited, finite resources, rather than the creators of new ones.
Which is exactly why we are jumping into our source material today.
Right.
We're doing a deep dive into this singular, really fascinating article.
Yeah, it's a great piece.
It's from the Indian Express, published way back on July 24th, 1990.
Right.
Written by Dr. S. Vijaya Kumar, and it is titled, boldly enough, Population is No Demon.
That's a strong title.
It really is. And the mission for this deep dive is to rescue you, the listener, from that oversimplified population bomb panic. We really want to explore the incredibly complex sort of egg and hen relationship between human beings and economic development.
And, exploring that relationship requires us to look at development not just as like a graph of gross national product.
Right, not just the GDP numbers.
Exactly. It's a dynamic, circular process. The author groups the factors affecting development into 4 broad categories.
Okay, what are they?
So you have natural resources, obviously.
Sure.
Then capital accumulation and technical progress. Third is the socio-political and institutional attitudes of a nation. And finally, the fourth one is human resources.
So think of a growing population like expanding a company's workforce.
Oh, that's a good way to look at it.
Right. Like if you hired 10,000 new employees, you could look at that purely as a massive bloated payroll expense.
Right. Just a line item that's going to bankrupt the company.
Exactly. Or you can look at that workforce as the core asset, like the actual engine that, if organized and trained correctly, generates exponentially more profit than it costs to maintain.
Yeah.
You can't just calculate the payroll. You have to, calculate the production.
And the author makes a really similar distinction regarding how population enters the economy.
How so?
Well, we naturally fixate on the first entry,
Right.
population as the ultimate consumer of products.
Right, like they eat the grain, they burn the fuel.
They take up the housing, exactly. But they also enter the economy a second time.
As producers?
Yes, as the dynamic agent of the production process. They are the ones actually creating the productive capacity to begin with.
Okay, let's unpack this, because this is huge.
It really is.
If human capital is the ultimate engine, and, well, if we want to understand how a population drives production, rather than just consuming everything in sight, we have to move entirely away from the sheer head count.
Right, the quantity.
Yeah, the quantity, and focus on the quality of those people. The text redefines population and development literature to encompass skills, training, health, rationality, and even enterprise.
Because without those qualitative traits, physical capital is essentially useless.
Just dead weight.
Basically, yeah. I mean, the author cites the Second Plan, which was a major Indian economic policy document.
Right.
And it makes this really profound point. It says, the process of economic development critically depends on how effectively potential natural resources are harnessed by human skills.
Wow.
Yeah, the Bribo basically argues that in a very real, functional sense, human skills are actually more important than capital formation itself.
Okay, so state-of-the-art factory is just like rusting metal without the engineers to run it.
Exactly.
And raw natural resources just stay buried in the ground without the human enterprise to extract and refine them.
Precisely.
Which, I mean, this totally reframes how we should view family welfare programs.
Oh, big time.
Because in the 1980s and 90s, these programs were often so narrowly marketed just as birth control.
Right, just limiting numbers.
Yeah. But Dr. Kumar points out that true family welfare is an implicit acknowledgement of the need to promote human skills and well-being.
Yeah, it's a direct investment in the quality of the workforce.
But wait, if human capital is the ultimate engine, and thinkers historically deeply valued labor, why did economists totally freak out so much about sheer numbers?
Right, the historical panic. To understand the root of that fear, the author brings us back to the Industrial Revolution.
Okay.
and specifically to a classical economist named T.R. Malthus.
Oh boy. Malthus.
Yeah, Malthus.
The man who basically convinced the world that humanity was mathematically doomed to starve.
That's the one. The author actually describes him as a nihilistic demographer.
A nihilistic demographer. That is quite a title.
It fits, though. Malthus was terrified by this observation he made. He thought populations seemed to grow geometrically.
Like multiplying rapidly. 2, 4, 8, 16.
Exactly. While the means of subsistence, specifically agricultural output and food, only grew at a slow arithmetic rate.
Like 1, 2, 3, 4.
Right. So you can see where the math leads.
Straight into a wall. And while you listening are probably familiar with the whole Malthusian trap concept, what is truly striking in this source is how that 19th century mathematical fear shaped modern policy.
Oh, it was huge. It wasn't just some academic debate in a university somewhere.
No, it became this pervasive global ideology. The author notes that this panic led to a literal war-footing response in developing nations.
War footing. It literally became the default scapegoat.
Right.
I mean, when planned economic targets weren't met in India, for example, planners would frequently just ascribe the failure to not winning the war against population.
Wow. Blame the people.
Yeah. And the text explicitly highlights the 1985 World Development Report, which observed that a war on poverty would simply have to be a war on population.
Because I guess blaming demographics is far easier than admitting to, institutional or administrative failures.
It's the ultimate pass for bad policy.
Yeah. Which logically brings us to the ideological counterweight presented in the text, the Marxist perspective.
Right.
And we are going to look at this totally impartially, just as the author presents it, just to understand the historical clash of these ideas.
Absolutely.
So how does the Marxist framework analyze this whole demographic panic?
Well, Marxists view these warnings about population growth as an imperialist thesis.
Okay.
From their perspective, the root cause of mass poverty has absolutely nothing to do with rapid population growth.
Then what is it?
They argue it stems entirely from oppressive social institutions and the unequal distribution of resources.
Right. Let's drill into the economic mechanism they use to actually justify that. Because the author outlines Marx's formula for the value of a commodity. It's C plus V plus S.
Right. Constant capital, variable capital, and surplus value.
And the distinction between those components is super crucial here.
It really is.
Okay.
So C, the constant capital, refers to the machinery and the raw materials.
Okay.
And in Marxist theory, constant capital only transfers its existing value to the final product. It doesn't actually create any new value.
Right. It just sits there.
Yeah. Then you have V, which is variable capital, and Marx defines this as living labor.
Human beings.
Exactly. Human beings working.
And the living labor is the only element capable of creating S.
The surplus value, right?
Exactly, the surplus value. The mechanism here is that human labor can actually produce more value in a day than it costs to sustain that worker for a day.
Which is a fascinating way to look at it.
It really is. That differential, that extra value, that's the surplus. Therefore, people aren't just maintenance costs. They are the sole generators of economic surplus.
Which is why surplus generation, which is basically one of the prime objectives of any development strategy, places the effective utilization of human resources at its very root.
Yeah.
The author actually points out that development economists like Nurks and Lewis share this pragmatic view.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they argue that human labor, even in densely populated areas, can be directly and fruitfully utilized for capital formation.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting.
Yeah.
We have this massive clash of historical titans, right? Malthus is just totally fixated on the physical limitations of land and food,
Right.
while Marx is focused on systemic exploitation and this unique value-generating capacity of human labor.
Two completely different lenses.
Totally different. But, relying solely on 19th century philosophy isn't really enough to dictate modern development policy.
No, you need hard data.
Right. So how do these 19th century philosophies hold up when you plug them into modern economic math?
That's the perfect question. And to answer that, the author transitions from philosophical theory to post-Keynesian economic math.
Nice.
He introduces R.F. Herod, an economist writing in the 1940s.
Okay, Herod.
Yeah, and Herod developed an equation for the natural rate of growth, which he called G sub n.
Got it. And Herod's equation basically dictates that under conditions of full employment, the maximum rate of growth of an economy is determined by two main factors.
Right.
The rate of growth of the labor force and the rate of technical progress.
And the mathematical implication of Herod's formula is huge. It essentially flips Malthus completely upside down
How so?
because the natural rate of growth depends on labor force expansion, meaning a higher population growth rate can actually dictate a greater maximum growth rate for the entire economy.
Wow. So mathematically, more people raises the ceiling.
Exactly.
Let's break down the economic mechanism that makes that math work in the real world. Why does more people equal a higher growth ceiling?
Well, it really comes down to scale and network effects.
Okay.
A larger population creates a massive internal domestic market.
Right. More people buying stuff.
Yeah, and that larger market allows for much deeper specialization of labor.
Which boosts efficiency.
Exactly. And regarding technical progress, it is ultimately a numbers game.
Like more lottery tickets?
Yeah. A larger pool of human capital mathematically increases the sheer probability of technological breakthroughs and innovations.
Makes total sense. And if Herod provides the theoretical math, there's another economist cited in the text who gives the real-world proof.
Oh, yes, P.T. Bauer.
Right. P.T. Bauer provides the empirical geographical proof for this.
He does. Bauer focused specifically on the development problems of less developed countries, or LDCs,
Right.
and he directly challenged that Malthusian bottleneck.
Right. He argues that the conventional wisdom assumes a nation's welfare depends mostly on the physical space available per head. Like how much land do we have per person?
Right, the physical carrying capacity.
Yeah. But Bauer uses stark historical contrast to prove that physical geography is rarely the deciding factor in prosperity.
It's rarely about the land itself. I mean, he points to places like Hong Kong and Singapore.
Oh, perfect examples.
Oh, right. These are among the most densely populated places on Earth.
Literally.
Packed. And they are situated on originally poor, resource-scarce land, yet they became incredibly prosperous economic juggernauts.
Right. Well, conversely, if you look back a century ago, regions in Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand, Latin America, and Africa, they were incredibly sparsely populated.
Tons of space.
Vast expanses of land, abundant natural resources, yet the inhabitants remained extremely poor.
It completely breaks the Malthusian rule. Bauer's analysis shows that the standard of living a country can support is not determined by its capital stock or natural acreage.
Then what is it determined by?
It depends primarily on the personal qualities of the people, the socio-political setup, their attitudes, the state of technology, and how they interact with international markets.
Okay, so comparing Singapore to a sparsely populated area a century ago, it's like comparing a tiny, highly efficient commercial kitchen to a massive, totally empty warehouse.
Ooh, I like that.
Right. The size of the room doesn't cook the food. The chefs do.
Exactly. The chefs cook the food.
Yeah.
That captures Bauer's point perfectly.
Yeah.
The fatal flaw of Malthusian pessimism is that it models humans as static entities.
Right. Like we don't change.
Yeah, it wrongly assumes that people just do not adapt to their circumstances. It pictures a world where a growing population just blindly consumes the available grain until they starve, completely ignoring human ingenuity.
Technological adaptation.
Right, and the restructuring of socio-political systems.
But, acknowledging that human adaptability is the ultimate engine of growth, that actually leads us to a very thorny practical dilemma for these countries today.
It does.
We all know the famous adage, economic development is the best contraceptive.
Right.
As living standards and education rise, birth rates naturally fall.
It's been proven time and again.
But waiting for that development to occur is a slow, multi-generational process.
Yeah, you can't just flip a switch.
Exactly. So how do modern developing nations actually balance immediate population pressures with long-term prosperity without falling into a trap?
Well, that is the false choice of demographic transition that Dr. Kumar highlights.
Okay.
Policy circles often get stuck in this deeply flawed egg and hen debate.
What's the debate?
It's like, do you forcefully control population first so that you can afford to develop? Or is economic development a strict precondition for natural population stabilization?
Wow. So they just go in circles.
Totally in circles. This debate paralyzed actual progress because it relied heavily on Western demographic transition theory.
Right.
Policymakers looked at 19th century Europe, where rising industrial incomes slowly lowered mortality rates.
Over decades.
Right, which eventually led to a decline in birth rates, and they tried to map that directly onto modern developing nations.
Which doesn't work.
No, the author emphasizes that blindly applying the Western model to contemporary, less developed countries is a grave mistake. The starting conditions are fundamentally different.
I mean, think about it. 20th century medical technology like vaccines and antibiotics.
Massive game changers.
Huge. They dropped mortality rates in the developing world drastically faster than what occurred in Victorian Europe.
Almost overnight in historical terms.
Right. This created a massive immediate population bulge that the Western model simply wasn't designed to account for.
No. You cannot just copy and paste historical timelines across entirely different technological eras.
That's true.
Which is how the author ultimately reconciles the conflicting theories we've been discussing.
Okay, lay it on me.
Malthus and Herod aren't actually contradictory.
Wait, really?
Yeah. A decrease or increase in population in isolation is not a reliable index of an adverse or favorable impact.
Okay, so it's entirely contextual.
Yes. The impact of population growth depends entirely on the specific stage of economic development one nation is in.
Right.
And crucially, how rapidly its institutions and people can adapt to that growth.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? If prior control of the population is, impossible without draconian measures, and simply waiting for development to magically stabilize demographics is just way too slow, what is the actual path forward here?
Dr. Kumar arrives at a very clear, pragmatic conclusion.
Which is?
Simultaneous action.
Simultaneous action.
Yes. The population plan and the development plan must be perfectly complementary. You cannot sequence them.
You have to do both at once.
Exactly. Practically speaking, this means the state must pursue aggressive economic growth while the people cooperate with intensive implementation of family welfare programs.
And remembering that the author defined family welfare earlier not just as birth control, but as holistic human capital investment.
Right. Education. Health.
Skill building.
Huh.
By simultaneously driving economic growth and heavily investing in the quality of the workforce, the negative consumption impacts of a growing population are completely nullified.
Yes. While the positive impacts, the expanding network of living labor that generates surpluses, are maximized.
It is a complete paradigm shift.
It really is. It moves the entire framework of development away from managing liabilities and toward cultivating assets.
So, to the listener, the next time you see a news headline panicking over global population numbers, crossing some new billion threshold.
Which happens every few years.
Right. Or you hear a pundit claiming a specific developing nation is totally doomed by its birth rate, you now have the mental toolkit to look past the sheer head count.
You don't have to get swept up in the Malthusian panics.
Exactly. You can now ask the better question, the only question that actually dictates that nation's future. What is being done to improve the quality of these human resources?
It changes the entire conversation.
It really does.
And, looking back at Bauer's assertion that the Malthusian doom always fails because it assumes people do not adapt to circumstances.
Yeah.
It leaves us with a really profound, lingering question to ponder about the future.
Oh, I love these. Let's hear it.
If human adaptation is the ultimate economic wildcard, what entirely unpredictable ways might the next generation adapt to today's modern resource constraints?
Ooh, like constraints like global energy demands or acute water scarcity?
Precisely. I mean, just as Malthus could not fathom the agricultural yields of the 20th century Green Revolution.
He had no idea what was coming.
None. Our current, most advanced economic models are likely completely blind to the adaptations the 21st century workforce will engineer right now.
That is so true. The capacity of human minds to innovate out of scarcity is just the one variable that doomsayers can never fully quantify.
They never see it coming.
It all comes back to the workforce. A growing population is only a demon if you refuse to invest in the minds that make it up.
Perfectly said.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the true nature of human capital. We really hope this has completely changed how you view the demographic data shaping our world.
It certainly changed my view.
Right. Well, keep questioning the headlines, and we will catch you on the next one.